here today is a little bit of a polyvagal overview, and we're going to have a few of these throughout. So, polyvagal theory was originally developed by Stephen Porges, and it explores how the nervous system, your nervous system, you as a nervous system, regulate your responses, and particularly to safety, to stress, and to connection. And it's based on the understanding of the vagus nerve as a key part of the parasympathetic nervous system. The vagus nerve is like a communication superhighway that sends messages body to brain, brain to body, but you are a whole being and your nervous system is within you. And I often say, how are you doing? How are you nervous systeming? To think of it as a verb. And the way you are nervous systeming influences how you experience the world and how you communicate, interact with others. So within the theory, there are three main states. The first is the ventral vagal state, and it's all about safety and connection. And when we're in that state, the world is good, we feel calm, connected, safe. It's the state that supports social engagement, open communication, creativity, and a kind of a sense of well-being. And it's the foundation for resilience and healing. And that's why we look to anchor back to that state. Nobody lives permanently 100% in that state, and it wouldn't be very good if you did. And all of these things are going on at once. The second state is the sympathetic state, fight or flight, as you might know it. And when the sympathetic system, not the parasympathetic, when the sympathetic system is activated, we respond to perceived danger. So this state is in service of survival, and it prepares us to fight, to flee. Long-term activation of this state, living in this state, can lead to and be caused by stress and lead to burnout. The third state is dorsal vagal, part of the parasympathetic nervous system. And this is all about shutdown or collapse, also in service of survival and the older part of the nervous system. And when this dorsal vagal system dominates, we might feel frozen. You can feel frozen in sympathetic, but frozen and whereas frozen here is disconnected and numb. This is a survival situation. It's like playing dead, the animal that plays dead. And in polyvagal theory, one of the things about it is a hierarchy, and the hierarchy of these three states, two being parasympathetic through the vagus nerve, and one being sympathetic. So those three different states are important in terms of considering and understanding polyvagal theory, but also yourself, understanding yourself. And I'm often saying awareness is everything. And so considering words as to how you are being you, how you are doing you within those three states. And whenever you look at this, whenever you come back to a map and look at how you function, how you engage with the world in those three, or not, in those three states, always come back to ventral vagal last, so that you're leaving with ideas of calm and connection. I hope you enjoy the rest of the calendar. I will put little snippets in on various days to increase understanding, knowledge, and deeper exploration of polyvagal theory and you being you. The three underlying principles of polyvagal theory. So polyvagal theory is built upon three core principles that help us understand how the nervous system shapes our experiences of safety, connection, and survival. And the three underlying principles are neuroception, the subconscious safety radar, the hierarchy of the nervous system states, and co-regulation, which is connection as a biological imperative. So what do those three mean? Well, neuroception, the body's subconscious safety radar. Neuroception is the process through which you or your nervous system or your nervous systeming evaluates your environment, relationships, and your internal state in order to detect safety and danger. It's not in your conscious awareness, so you don't know it's happening. But based on that neuroception, the nervous system responds and activates the states, and particularly will activate the survival states, the states in service of survival. This is what I mean when I say, how are you nervous systeming? So a perceived sense of safety lets us anchor into calm connection, ventral vagal, while a sense of a threat can trigger fight and flight or shutdown responses, even if the danger isn't truly real. So that's neuroception. The second one is hierarchy of the nervous system states. And we went through this last time. Ventral vagal being safety and connection, the most evolved state. It enables social engagement, creativity, and a sense of calm. Sympathetic, which is fight or flight, a state of mobilization to respond to potential danger. And the third one being dorsal vagal, shutdown or collapse, a state of conservation, immobilization, and disconnection. This hierarchy is also an evolutionary progression, dorsal vagal being the oldest and ventral vagal being the most recently developed. We're talking about a long time here. But understanding the hierarchy helps us recognize our patterns, how we are being, how we are doing, how you are nervous systeming. And that means that if you have that awareness, you can have choice moving towards safety and connection. So the three underlying principles, neuroception, hierarchy, the third one being co-regulation. That's connection as a biological imperative. We're wired for connection as human beings. Co-regulation is the process through which the nervous system attune to each other, creating a sense of safety. Positive social interactions, like a kind word, a smile, a calming presence, the memory or thought of someone, the smile that ripples around a Zoom room when we're looking at each other, that activates ventral vagal state and helps keep you regulated. Isolation can contribute to less regulation in the nervous system and push it towards stress or shutdown. So having an understanding of what it represents and then developing relationships and how you can tap into those relationships is really important in terms of resilience and healing. So these principles, neuroception, hierarchy, co-regulation, these help guide you when looking for self-regulation and moving from fatigue, pain, overwhelm to developing resilience, self-regulation, healing. It's a way to support you to work with your own nervous system, your own nervous systeming, in order to tap back into, anchor back into ventral vagal and support that process. A little bit more on polyvagal theory. So if you remember, three states, This is how you are nervous systeming. Ventral vagal, calm and connected. Sympathetic, fight and flight. Dorsal vagal, shutdown, immobilization. I encourage you to consider what that nervous systeming is like for you in each of those three areas. Now, when I use graphics, you probably noticed I don't particularly use color on them. It's really calm colors. And when I did the training rhythms of regulation with Deb Dana, she tends to stick to fairly neutralish colors or not like red and yellow. You can use the colors you want, but I didn't want to really instill the idea that some states are bad, even if they bring about a sense of activation. They're all there for a reason. They all have a purpose. And sympathetic nervous system and dorsal vagal are there in service of survival. So one of the things that you can do is think about how you are nervous systeming when experiencing, operating in those states. What are the words that describe it for you? Fill it in, write it down. What are the words? Is there a color for each of them that's right for you? We're going to come back to the states, but I wanted to introduce you to glimmers. So, what is a glimmer? A glimmer is a small, brief, fleeting moment, something that signals a moment of safety, connection, delight to the nervous system. It's like a little spark in a good way. Glimmers are the opposite of what you might think of as triggers. Triggers activate danger responses. Glimmers, momentary as they are, activate ventral vagal. And so glimmers can hook you back in, anchor you back to calm connection. Glimmers might be something as simple as hearing a laugh, seeing light through trees or leaves, seeing a rainbow, feeling the breeze on your skin, the noise when you hear the dog snore and you think, oh, they're small, they're tiny, they are sprinkles of something good, good stuff. Why do they matter? Well, as you are nervous systeming, as you move along in life, your nervous system is always in the background scanning for cues of safety and cues of danger. And the glimmers are the little anchors signaling that the world is good. It's okay to relax. It's okay to connect. You can actively notice glimmers. So when you see the light through the leaves in the trees or the branches in the trees, and you go, pause and just notice a moment longer. And over time, you'll be more accustomed to actively noticing the glimmers. And this can bring quite a bit of nourishment to the nervous system and help you return to a calm, connected state when things are more challenging. Glimmers are everywhere, but if like anything, it takes practice to tune into them. You can pause and just take in where you are. You know, I see sometimes people going through the park wearing headphones or something, and unless you need to cut out the sound, let the sound be there. I live near a park and it's full of parrots. There's always posts on the local Facebook page. Someone lost their parrot. But you can hear these gorgeous little parrots making noises. And we look up and we see a few parrots flying together. Or we see squirrels. We see leaves falling. We see little mushrooms gathering. Little moments. The light is beautiful through the trees. Little moments. You can be open to glimmers. Sort of look out for glimmers, even keep a notebook of glimmers, things that you saw, things that happened, things that you noticed in your day, and talk about glimmers. Talking about glimmers can be lifting. It can bring you back to that calm, connected place. A little bit more polyvagal theory. So this is about ventral vagal anchors, or anchoring in ventral vagal. As you probably remember from polyvagal theory, there is a hierarchy, and it is ventral vagal, which is calm and connected, sympathetic, which is fight and flight, and dorsal vagal, which is disconnection and shutdown. So when we look at ventral vagal anchors, these are tools, powerful tools for supporting your nervous systeming, how you are nervous systeming, and supporting well-being, supporting resilience, supporting nourishment. And the importance really is of understanding the link and the ability to regulate into ventral vagal state is foundational for nervous system regulation, emotional regulation, health, and general resilience. So, what are ventral vagal anchors? Well, they're resources. They're resources that can support you to shift state, to move to or towards ventral vagal, to move towards calm and connection. And to do that particularly intentionally when feeling out of that state, out of balance, or leaving that state. Ventral vagal anchors have a dual role, really, because they also deepen connection when you already are feeling calm, connected. So, in considering your own anchors, anchors are things that will help you feel into ventral vagal. And so, to develop like a library of anchors, there are 4 questions or 4 groups of things: who, what, where, and when. So who in your life helps you feel calm, safe, and connected? Might be someone you love, a partner, a friend, a parent, a child, a pet. There's a dog down here. It might be a person past or present. It might be a spiritual figure. And considering who brings that state to you, that connection to you, and making a note of it. You know, you can make notes about these things and developing a library of things. So developing a library of the people or the pets or the spiritual figures that bring that sense of calm, safe connection. So who is the first one? What small activity consistently brings you a sense of calm and ease? And it may be things that you do on your own. It may be things you do with others. It may be related to nature. It may be about the bigger picture, the bigger world. And so looking at nature, drinking tea, crocheting, knitting, practicing yoga, listening to a favorite song, any of those things, but having a growing library of things that you can add to your list of anchors. For what? These things might all overlap, and that's fine. The who, what, where, and when, apart from anything else, help you identify the anchors. Where is a place that you feel settled, connected, calm, at ease, hopeful, creative? It might be your hub. I call it a hub, my corner of the sofa, or my yoga shed. It might be a favorite room in your house. It might be a favorite park. It might be a specific piece of furniture or your cozy bed. It's where. Who, what, where, when. When do you consistently feel a sense of calm connection. For example, it could be early mornings, late into the evening, during certain routines, like when you settle down, snuggle down to read before bed. So using those 4 questions, you can come up with a range of anchors. But also, sometimes you'll hear me talk about the domains of practice, the domains of self-care, the domains of resilience, and they are self, other, eco, nature, and spirit or purpose, passion. And those 4 domains, well, I've had them taught to me by Deb Dana in Rhythms of Regulation and also by Mark Walsh in Embodiment Unlimited. And so using those 4 domains, you can also develop a library of anchors. Depends what resonates most with you. So again, it comes back to self practices, things you do yourself. It might be hobbies, it might be meditation, it might be yoga, it might be craft, it might be walking with others. It might be walking with someone. It might be yoga, practicing yoga with someone. It might be chatting online or in person with someone. It might be dancing with a particular person. It might be the co-regulation that you get from a pet. Self, others, nature, or the wider world. Particular practices or things that happen in nature and the wider world. Twirling in the park, walking out in the trees nearby or in lovely footpaths, anything that connects you with nature that you choose to do that brings you that sense of calm and connection. And so that's self, others, nature, and the last one is spirit or passion and purpose. The things that light you up are often things that bring a sense of ease, especially if they're done in moderation. So that might be still meditating. It might be something that you do as part of work. It might be a hobby again. It might be spirituality. So however you do it, developing a library of things that are anchors back to ventral vagal is really helpful. So basically, ventral vagal anchors, they're simple, they're powerful, they're tools to support you and your nervous systeming. They help you develop connection, develop ease, develop health, actually, and develop resilience. So I invite you, I invite you to think about them, make a note of them, add to them, have a little book all about what's good that you love, what's good that you can do, what's good that you can think about that brings you a sense of calm, connection, and ease. A short exercise to help you tune into polyvagal theory. And actually, if you come to any of my sessions and our sessions around befriending me, we talk a lot about awareness and noticing. In fact, I'm always saying awareness is everything. And it's important for everybody, but especially for those of us with persistent health challenges, trying to find a pathway through to wellness and resilience. So here, we're looking for awareness of your nervous systeming. And even when I did the ABC, or we do that quite regularly, I often ask, how are you nervous systeming? And when I say that, I mean, what is going on with your nervous system? How much ventral vagal is there? How much sympathetic is there? How much dorsal is there? Can you notice? So here we're looking to notice and name. And by doing this, it'll help you build up a profile, should you choose to, as to what the different states, how they can be for you, or how you can be experiencing aspects of those states. So what we're doing is building awareness of the nervous system state of your nervous systeming, and trying to engage with it in a curious and compassionate way and accepting whatever comes up. Notice already we're thinking about pausing in order to notice, to have awareness and having acceptance for whatever is there. What we do with that is something different. What we do if we choose to shift it is the bit around intention. So first is notice. Notice, you could say, where your nervous system has taken you, or how you are nervous systeming. So to do that, take a moment, pause, let your breath settle. Let yourself notice. What do you notice in your body as a body? Notice what's calling your attention. Notice tension, stillness, restlessness. Notice how you feel emotionally, whether you feel activated or agitated, anxious, whatever words you use, or maybe fatigued, low on energy. It's not about fixing anything or having any negative judgment. It's about noticing. And then turn toward what you're feeling and tune in. Turn towards your experience with curiosity and compassion. It's like, what does this state want me to know? How is this nervous systeming serving me, communicating with me, letting me know what I need? And sometimes you'll hear me say, what do I want? What do I need? Or what do I need? What do I want? And being tuned into your nervous systeming, your ventral vagal energy, your dorsal vagal energy, your sympathetic activation can help you see that, feel that, understand that. If you're noticing a dorsal kind of energy, you might say, or you might sense the dorsal state is letting you know you need rest or safety. The nervous systeming with that element of dorsal. If it's like a sympathetic energy, you might, sense the sympathetic system is telling you something feels urgent or overwhelming or exciting. None of it's bad. It's all got a purpose. If you're in ventral vagal, or that is more dominant in your nervous systeming, you might feel, say, my ventral system is inviting me to connect, sense into calm. So take a moment, tune in. Notice how you are nervous systeming, the elements that are there. Without diving too deeply, we're just sort of peering into this. Not necessarily getting into the full story, just looking at the information that's there. And take a breath and let it go. Trying to notice a number of times a day how you're doing, how you're feeling, how you're being, how you are nervous systeming. A little bit more polyvagal theory, and looking today at how physiological state or your nervous systeming shapes your story, shapes the experience you have of the world, or how you process what's going on in the world around you, how you process what's going on in relationships, experiences. The state is where it begins. And of course, they influence each other. So it goes on and it goes round. The nervous system tells three main stories, or three main stories emerge from your nervous systeming. One is safety and connection, when you're more present in ventral vagal or anchored there. One is mobilization, when sympathetic nervous system is more dominant. And one is about shutdown, when we're overwhelmed and more to dorsal vagal. So let's look at that a little bit more. Thinking first about ventral vagal. It's a story of safety and connection. Your nervous system, your nervous systeming tells you that you're safe. The story is of possibility and connection. You might feel grounded, resilient, engaged with the world. You might notice a warmth, a steadiness in your breath, an ease or softness in your body. This is where relationships live, thriving relationships. It's where creativity flows, and it's where healing happens. Imagine, sense, feel into what that feels like for you, what safety and connection feels like for you. You might bring to mind a favorite person, a comforting place, or stillness in nature, something that evokes that. And when you're experiencing that, the story of the world is different, it's positive, it's good. Then sympathetic. The sympathetic nervous system is all about mobilization. So when you are experiencing more dominance of the sympathetic nervous system, there's a story of mobilization. The body is ready for action, fight and flight. And that, of course, prepares you to respond to threats. But staying there too long can be overwhelming. You might notice restlessness, a racing heart, a sense of unease. It's a story of unease and danger. It's a story of urgency, of mistrust, and connection being out of reach. If even thinking about that makes you feel quite activated, feel your feet on the ground. Feel your body supported by a chair. Take a breath and feel softness in your belly. And then dorsal vagal, shutdown. It's a story of disconnection. When the nervous system is experiencing or processing what it believes to be extreme danger, it moves to shutdown. A protective state of conservation. Remember, this is about being in service of survival. You might feel heavy, distant, numb, like the world has faded away. And the story can be one of isolation, hopelessness. And if you feel distant and untethered, what is the story that's in your mind at that time? If you feel distant and untethered thinking about that, what might help you reconnect? What anchors can you use? Perhaps softening your breath, feeling a little dog, seeing a friend, thinking about somebody, placing your hand on your heart. There is hope here, a hopeful perspective for resilience and change, because the beauty of this theory, of polyvagal theory, is it's a message of hope. The nervous system isn't fixed. Your nervous systeming fluctuates all of the time. Your early experiences, life experiences influence how you are nervous systeming and the patterns that you develop. But practices can change things over time. So awareness is where that starts. Awareness brings possibility of acceptance, that this is how it is now, brings possibility of intention to shift the nervous system, to regulate the nervous system, and move it back to ventral vagal when you choose. So your nervous system's always telling a story, noticing your state, meeting yourself with kindness. This allows you to begin to shift. And we'll talk more about that. Today, you can take a small step towards calm and connection, whether it's through an out breath and softening, through movement, through picturing a friend, a pet, a different person that makes you feel warm. connection can lead to growth, healing, safety. Okay, so we've been talking quite a bit about polyvagal theory, and although you may already know this, some of you may not. So thinking about what has this got to do with health challenges? And what's it got to do with chronic stress? What's it got to do with all the things that you may have experienced? Well, the nervous system is how you operate. And for anybody that has experienced trauma, a big trauma, or anybody who has been under stress, which is most of the population, but anybody who's been under prolonged stress, there's a tendency for the nervous system to get stuck in survival mode. And if you think about what does the nervous system affect, the autonomic nervous system affects everything. And you'll have seen this picture. I've probably used it before, so you've probably seen it. Every single system in your body is impacted by the autonomic nervous system, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. And polyvagal theory helps us understand how differences in the way the nervous system is functioning or the way you are nervous systeming will affect every single system. So if you get stuck, if your nervous system has been or does get stuck in survival modes, like sympathetic overdrive or dorsal shutdown, then this may come out as health challenges. It may come out as activation, anxiety. It may come out as dorsal shutdown, prolonged fatigue, heaviness. And you may have lived in a period of being stuck in those states. If I relate it to myself and just relating it to everyday life, the work that I was doing previously, I was pretty stuck in sympathetic overdrive. Go, 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 fix things, do things, manage things, day and night. It's not really a healthy way to live, even if it's accepted as a way to live in current employment, in businesses, in the way services are run. So if you've experienced that, or trauma, or have overgiven repeatedly for year after year after year, your nervous systeming may have been conditioned to remain in survival modes. Understanding how you are operating, understanding your own nervous system functioning can help you make choices, can help you make shifts, can help you move back more consistently or more fluidly to ventral vagal. And that in itself is bringing nervous system resilience, the ability to move back into a calm, connected place. Thinking about polyvagal theory, nervous system regulation, one concept that's really useful is the window of tolerance. And you'll hear me use this sometimes when I talk about gently pushing against the edges. The window of tolerance. Now, some people don't like that name, and it might be the window of activity, but it's about you operating or functioning in a place that can keep you in ventral vagal rather than dropping into a sympathetic overdrive or shutdown, falling into states of survival. So your window of tolerance is like your nervous system's sweet spot. It's the place that you can function, be, do, engage in activities, and handle bits of stress without feeling overwhelmed or without feeling too overwhelmed. It's all right to have a little bit of sympathetic activation, a little bit of quietening, and it's okay to have bits of mixed state. So we're talking about when we're wanting to widen that window where we can function well. Falling outside of that window means dropping out of ventral vagal. So it might be having a greater sympathetic response, feeling anxious, agitated, overwhelmed. It might be falling into a more dorsal response, feeling frozen, exhausted, shut down. Growing the window needs two things. It needs regular practices that bring you back to ventral vagal, nourishing practices, things that soothe. But it's also about stretching, pushing against the edges, doing things that will expand that window. And this is where there's a danger, because calibrating that, which we'll come on to another time, can be really difficult. Having awareness of when you might be at the edge of your comfort zone is a practice in itself, because you may not be aware. It might be only when it's too late, things have gone too far, and you've dropped well out of that window of tolerance that you notice. So developing awareness, building awareness is always good. Taking steps to bring challenge, gentle, small, fairy steps of challenge can be helpful. Like a new activity, holding a yoga pose for a little bit longer, just a little bit longer. Even if that pose is lying down or in a chair, doesn't matter where it is, it's expanding that tolerance and ability to do it just a little bit. If you have health challenges, the care is needed to not overstep that, not try and go too far. And then pausing, noticing, reflecting, and knowing when extra practices for regulation and nourishment are needed. Small steps build resilience. Okay, we keep talking about nervous system regulation, polyvagal theory, and one of the things that I suggest at times is firstly tuning into awareness repeatedly throughout the day. And when you first start to do this, it doesn't come naturally. So setting a reminder like a note on the bathroom window or a note on the kettle, so that you remember to pause and check in. How am I doing? How do I feel? How am I being me? How am I nervous systeming? That's kind of step one, getting used to the idea of checking in, getting used to the action of checking in. Step two, a step on from that, is bringing in small practices of regulation. What do I mean by that? I mean, noticing how you're doing and then doing something to shift it towards ventral vagal. So you might have a self-generated practice. So practices that you can do might be things like taking a longer out breath, or taking a sigh. It might be practicing ABC, awareness, balance, core relaxation, and co-regulation. Thinking of someone might be bringing to mind someone who makes you smile, someone who you love. It might be stepping outside into nature. It might be thinking of the things that bring you joy, the things that bring you purpose in life, whether they're hobbies or bigger things. So any of the small practices can be sprinkled into your day. And these help you develop regulation. These help you develop resilience, move more easily to ventral vagal when you need to. If you practice things when you don't need them, you're more able to use them when you do. So you can ask yourself, what small practice can I do in this moment? Practicing a practice helps you use it. Practicing a practice means that it's at your fingertips when you need it. It might also be a hug, just a hug. A hand to the shoulder, a hand round the ribs, dropping the head, dropping the gaze, having a little squeeze, adding an out breath. Or even just taking a tiny hand squeeze. Actually, taking a tiny hand squeeze is easier and brings more of that ventral vagal kind of energy and feeling and movement if you've associated it with the hug. Scattering small practices throughout your day. Thinking about polyvagal theory, thinking about those of us with health challenges, and a word that comes up again and again, or a word that I use again and again, is calibration. The things that you do, the practices that you do, keep you in ventral vagal or help you shift towards ventral vagal. Now, as you learn about different things that you can do, whether it's yoga, meditation, breathing, being, day-to-day activities, this is where calibration comes in. In a yoga practice, when there are options, it's important to calibrate to how you need it to be. So, for example, it may be that some days your yoga practice or your practice needs to be from bed. Some days it may be in a chair. Some days it may be seated on a mat. Some days it might be standing, or some days it might be in the park. The movements that you make can be from tiny, fairy movements to big, expansive movements. And the skill is learning, tuning, knowing, tuning into how your nervous systeming, what do I need and what do I want? And what you need isn't always what you want. You might want to leap high, run fast. And some days that's not possible. Or for some periods, that's not possible. Sometimes it's about small movements, small and slow and gradual steps. I sometimes talk about the injuries of enthusiasm, and we laugh about this, but enthusiasm can sometimes override calibration. So if what you need, what your nervous systeming is telling you is small steps, small movements, then over enthusiasm can mean that you miscalibrate. You don't quite get it right for how you need on that day or in that moment on that day. All movement is good. Movement is good for everybody, actually. But if you have health challenges, it's so important to move every day. But the movements can be small. That calibration, those steps, being slow and as you need. Sometimes they have to be stretched out over time. So noticing how you are, the signals that you are giving you, the signals of your nervous systeming will guide you in your calibration. It's the same with things like breath work. You can read a lot, you can see a lot on any social media about different challenges, and actually they still need to be calibrated. It might be that noticing breath is enough. When you think about things like cold ice baths, the promo for it is it's really good, it develops resilience, it's good for health challenges, etc., etc. However, if you have a fragile nervous system and you are still slowly building resilience, that can be overwhelming, a sympathetic overload that can throw you into shutdown. The calibration of that for some of us would be wrong. The alternative might be a splash of cold water on your face. We may be miles from a cold ice bath. Finding the calibrated level that's right for you. And, you know, if your nervous system is more in need of nourishment, then throwing in a whole load of sympathetic overdrive is not going to be helpful. It doesn't mean we don't embrace challenge, but the challenge needs to be calibrated. Fairy steps. Yoga from bed. Yoga from bed is perfect. Visualizing yoga. Yoga from bed. yoga from the sofa, yoga from a chair, yoga from a mat just sitting, yoga from a mat sitting and kneeling, yoga from a mat sitting, kneeling, standing. There is a scale of calibration, finding what you need, what you want at any particular time helps build resilience and helps nourish, develop self-care. It's okay to go slow, particularly for those of us with health challenges. The slowness, the pause, that's where the magic happens. So allow yourself to calibrate where it's right for you. This video is about overactive vagal responses, the concept of an overactive vagal nerve and its implications for health and reactions that are present in the nervous system. So, what is it all about? Well, the vagus nerve, and we've been talking about this in relation to polyvagal theory, but it's one of the most important parts of the autonomic nervous system. It's like a central part of the control center, and its function is spread wide. As you've seen in previous diagrams, the autonomic nervous system works throughout the entire body, and that includes the vagus nerve, bringing much of the parasympathetic activity. So there's an impact on heart rate, digestion, breathing, how stressed you feel and are, how you are nervous systeming. And one concept that we haven't really talked about is the vagal brake. And the vagal brake is an action from the vagus nerve that slows down sympathetic input. So think of it like if the sympathetic nervous system is about to rise, the vagal brake slows it. If you're going down a hill on a bike and the speed building up would be due to the sympathetic nervous system, the vagal brake slows that down. Okay, so that is naturally calibrated. The problem when there is an overactive vagus nerve, vagal response, is that brakes come on too fast, too hard, too sharp. And in the analogy where you're going down the hill on a bike, you slam on the brakes, you'd fly over the handlebars. And so what that could mean in the body is a sudden drop in heart rate, blood pressure, energy levels. The body trying to conserve energy and shutting things down that aren't needed. So if the vagal brake is too sensitive and the vagus nerve ability to shut down the sympathetic nervous system or slow down that response, or if you think of it of a sympathetic nervous response comes in and the vagus nerve comes flying in to protect and gets a bit over enthusiastic. So you might get dizziness or fainting due to sudden changes in heart rate, blood pressure, digestive disturbances, nausea, sickness, diarrhea, or sudden overwhelming fatigue, lethargy, disconnection. Now, in persistent health challenges, you get problems with that balance anyway, but you can have an overactive vagus nerve or vagal response. That tendency can be there in a more familial way, a genetic way, without necessarily having the health challenges. So you can see both of them. And you might have someone with health challenges that has this really dominating their nervous system, and then see a family history of syncope, fainting, or extra responses to shocks, to stress, but without having the more widespread health challenges. When they're linked with health challenges, you can see how the challenge itself, the persistent health challenges, can have an impact on the functioning of the nervous system. It's like a cycle that affects each other, and the feedback can make things more difficult to manage. Pain in the nervous system the whole time keeps the nervous system on a state of alert. So chronic pain can contribute to this. Chronic fatigue and illness can adjust or alter the sensitivity of that vagal break, but also can be a result of nervous system dysregulation. Is all about an imbalance of that interplay, that dance between the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. And when it's an overactive or oversensitive vagus nerve or vagal response, you might see a violent swing between the states of high stress and sudden shutdown. What can you do? It's the same for all the things that we talk about with persistent health challenges, with chronic fatigue, with chronic pain, trying to build nervous system resilience, nervous system regulation. And so going back to those 4 domains, practices you can do yourself: meditation, yoga, gentle movement, walking, movement of any kind, in fact. Practices, things that you can do with others, co-regulation with others, the wider world, nature, taking in nature. And the 4th domain, passion, purpose, spirituality. Those 4 domains all link with nervous system regulation and building resilience. So the overactive vagus nerve, rather than being a problem, trying to view it as the body trying to protect itself. The nervous systeming is responsive in a way to try and protect. It's just a little bit over responsive. So building resilience, building regulation will help soften that response and bring it back to a more regulated space. Let the dance continue. This video is about having compassion for your nervous system, having compassion for your nervous systeming. No states are wrong, no states are bad. Ventral vagal is that place of calm and connection. But, all states are blended. There's all states running all the time. It's like layering. And when you get a lot of sympathetic nervous system or a lot of dorsal vagal, remember, it's in service of survival. Your nervous systeming is to protect you, to help you, to guide you, to inform you. So this is about having both compassion and curiosity about your nervous systeming. You're not broken. Your nervous systeming isn't broken. It's all about awareness. I'm always saying it. Pausing for awareness. Accepting what is there. Having intention for if you may want to shift, change, support with nourishment, with care. So when you do pause, you can pause and ask. You can notice, how am I nervous systeming right now? What is most dominant right now? You can name it not without judgment, because we're always discerning, but without negative judgment. Name how you're being, how you're doing, how you are being you, how you are nervous systeming. Turn toward it to gently explore what that nervous systeming is telling you, what it's asking you. What do I need? What do I want? Calibrating what you choose to do. Allowing micro practices, micro movements, fairy steps, if you're looking to shift, change, or build resilience, build regulation. Self-compassion isn't about trying to fix yourself. This is about having an understanding of what's going on for you, as a whole being, and thanking your own nervous systeming for that. Your whole being is keeping you safe, acknowledging how you're doing, how you're being, and thanking yourself for noticing can shift that relationship with yourself, noticing what you're doing well. And that noticing of what you're doing well, that doing well, the thing you're doing well may be being aware of whatever is going on in that moment. Thank you for joining me in each of the sessions, practices, thoughts,